So without further ado, can we have Nathan Bechtold? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Everybody get one of these lovely pieces of paper? All right, cool. So, again,
Smile now.
right in between tables. Is that going to be awkward? I'll go over here. So, yeah, my name is Nathan Bechtold. I am the president of the Indiana Filmmakers Network. I have been on the board for 12 years. I must enjoy it because it kills me. I am the living dead right now. But I've been the president for the past 3 years, going on 4, and plan on becoming like the Stan Lee of I have been here soon enough. Again, because I'm half dead and financially strapped. But anyway, so the Indiana Filmmakers Network, for those of you who don't know, we started off just like Matt. Actually, Tim sits on our advisory committee and our board. You guys are our sister. So we really appreciate having you part of our network and love every one of you guys. With Film in Indiana, we have 8 hubs across the state, plus 7 affiliate hubs. People doing workshops in schools, libraries, you name it. So cinema and film and the cinematic arts is very much alive in Indiana. Really good films come out of Indiana. You're working on how many films right now, Trish?
Just the one feature.
But there's numbers of them going on.
Oh, yeah.
So we just had 40 Hour Film Challenge, which was last week. India Film Shorts was last week. Gen Con was this past weekend. Chuck Bedrow, who was part of IFN, also runs that film festival there. And there's really no excuses, and there's really no lack of resources in Indiana. And one thing that IFN really tries to do is bring resources to independent filmmakers and creators of all kinds, because I think a lot of times we don't think of what's next door. We think the grass is greener, so we look at like LA, Atlanta, maybe New York, Chicago's right here. But you know, those are bigger markets and those are great. I've always been pretty dominant in saying if you are shining light and you can shine in your area pretty bright, moving to the larger areas where a whole bunch of people's lights are shining, you just blend right in. Own the places where you live, and really make a name for yourself and learn, and then maybe then make the jump. When it comes to Film Indiana, or Film in Indiana again, it's a wonderful thing that we have somebody from the Visitor Center, because that is exactly some of the people you need to talk to. Local chamber, local civic, local, you know, there's a lot of places and people here. So let's say in South Bend, so maybe a house on a historical registry, if you write a tasteful film around it, maybe not a huge zombie film or something with aliens and I don't know, because you know they might go for it, don't know. And if you showcase local businesses, local features, that can go a long way to helping you out. Financially, economically, and definitely for the news. So you got to look at those things sometimes when you're creating your work. If you really have that mentality of what you want to write, and you say, I'm going to do, like with Demetrius, I love Demetrius, you're going to do a big sci-fi epic. Awesome, do it. But then again, you have to think about your sponsors and your marketing and all the other things that you can work in together, and maybe locations. And the more you look into your own area and what's available, you can own it. Name something here that you can think of that you'd like to film. There's something. Something that you'd like to film. Anybody?
Greenhouse.
A greenhouse? Do you know exactly where you'd want to go? So, of course, you could go to the owner and say, hey, could I film it, blah, blah, blah. And they'd be like, oh, I don't know, because insurances and other things, right? So you can go to your local, well, visitor center, definitely. And they might be able to help you with maybe finding legal services as well on that in a sense. Just that you might be able to do entertainment or something to that, or some kind of item. We work with Small Business Administration, SCORE. They talk to you for free. If you don't know how to set up an LLC or S Corp or C Corp, anything like that, they'll talk to you. Set it up. There's mentorship programs all across Indiana. Again, if you don't know your own business, how can you do business on a larger scale? And film is show business. It's the best business I know, right? So No business like it, right? And that's true. But a lot of people miss out on the fact that it's business. First and foremost, you have to have that kind of mentality on top of the creative end. So getting somebody, if you are totally creative all the time, you might miss out on that. So get somebody that you can work with that understands the minutia of the business end. We try to help with people on the state level to do that as well. Again, reach out to those kinds of things, like Small Business Administration, SCORE, local civic engagement, city councils. Maybe they can help you. You never know, just ask. A lot of people are very excited when you're working on a local film. How many people have worked on local films and like people are just like, oh, what, really? Tell me more about that. I want to know more. Own that. Because if you tell people in Chicago, I am working on a local film, they're like, okay, cool. So is my cousin, so is my brother, so is Joe, then my neighbor. I'm working on one too. So own it. Filmmakers, creatives like to hide away. I know how, because I'm extroverted and introverted at the same time. I conflict with myself all the time. And I understand that a lot of creatives don't want to always get out there. They don't want to put themselves out there. Even sometimes directors. Fine, we're in a little small group. We can tell people what to do, get our job done, and understand how our film's going to be. But how are we going to go into distribution? How are we going to sell that? How are we, there's a lot more to it. So you really got to understand from day one. I know I'm a little off kilter on this. You have to understand from day one exactly what you want to do with your project. Is it going to be just for fun? Is it a hobby? Are you going to want to make business out of it? Do you want to be on Netflix? What is your real goal? And you have to be serious about that. Just make a goal and then move forward with it. Does all that make sense? You have any questions about that?
In your travels around Indiana, what do you think is one of the main stumbling blocks, let's say, to talent, be it in front of the camera or behind the camera, that is holding things back in the state? Me having come from Ohio, where it's very active, and we have, they do have the tax breaks for filming in Ohio.
Sure. So I would say there's a couple things. One is us. We're in our own way. The creators, we don't again reach out. We don't look up those resources. We have to force feed people sometimes. Come to meetings like this, get involved, talk to people, network, that kind of stuff. That is like the lifeblood of the industry, is networking and engagement. It's who you know and who knows you. Talking, engaging. We don't do enough of that as creators. We don't. A lot of times we might have like mix and mingles and things like that. And a lot of people really like that free food and free drinks, but they don't always talk about the projects. So I would say utilize that. A lot of times the people, we are our own stumbling block. I'm all about ownership of what we do. As a state, well, there's a lot. There's a lot we need to do. That's not easily fixable. And that's not a political thing, well, partly, but it's not really a partisan issue on that. It's not. I think if we really get the right people in place and understand that it's an economic boom and we sell it well, to understand what we're missing out on, and to really showcase what we already have and what we need to build. Because again, from day one, since I got involved with IFN even before 12 years ago I had the son on board, talking about state stuff, we were part of a group with John Vickers and a number of other people down in Bloomington. And then we did Indiana Media Production Alliance, which is kind of still nebulous. It's kind of there in a way. They really tried to push taxes in it. They had a really good push. And actually, I have a couple other old flyers that we worked on that if you want to look at it. Those were more like keeping students here, investing in us, education. It's a jobs bill, education bill, arts, working with Arts Commission. Arts Commission kind of goes, no offense, Arts Commission. They kind of go off and do their own thing. They really focus on their own members. They focus on their own regions. And they don't look at cinema in the same way they might look at a painting on the wall or a piece of clay sitting in the corner. They just don't understand it as much.
Could you tell us, Nathan, what the bill number was, who authored it, and it didn't get passed, but tell us about the bill and what is the number of the bill?
I think it's 1070 if I'm right, correct? So we've had a couple of them and I always get them mixed up. So 1070 was the most recent one. It is dead in the House.
Dead.
But that doesn't mean that this particular bill is not going to be reincorporated into a new bill. I think they're going to try to do it again next year, and in 2 years with another push. For my knowledge.
It's gonna be a new bill with a new number.
I believe so. I don't think they're going to, because that's usually what always happens.
Okay.
They don't recycle
Okay.
that. It's going to be, yeah. And you're going to have a new lobbyist, a new, whole bunch of new stuff.
Okay,
But
well,
every
tell
year-
us what you need to have done to get the new bill passed.
Okay, so there's a couple different things. I'm still about getting us engaged. It's really, we push narrative. We as individuals and creatives in our towns and our cities. So let's say, what can South Bend do? Talk to that gentleman. Talk to your local political authority. Get them more engaged on understanding what that's about, and maybe the city can help you. And then maybe have a voice there. Like if we get everybody, like I'm, again, networking, we get all the cities kind of saying, this is what we could do. The city themselves can make a tax incentive program, and they should, especially here. Because you're so close to Chicago, you're so close to certain things, they will come here. You have good stuff here, and it could help on infrastructure and a whole bunch of stuff. That money can be put into however the city wants to invest that money. If they want to do a tax incentive and have maybe money come in for maybe infrastructure building, or maybe a warehouse district that needs refurbished, something, right? It just depends. It's all crazy politics. A lot of times I think we're stuck into the club rule mentality of rural America, where, you know, it's like the local arts council is like, oh, we're going to invest in this this project, and Farmer Joe over here is going to get some people. It's not that. It's not so minute. It's so much bigger than what that mentality is in America, in Indiana right now. So the cities need to get past that stumbling block. We as creators need to get past that stumbling block. And then we can help the House and the state really push it. I really wholeheartedly believe that. Chicago, actually, let me look at South by Southwest. You guys know South by Southwest?
Oh yeah, that's big.
So it started arts festival, music festival in Austin, city limits, and all that good stuff, right? That was a really big, that's like a liberal hotspot for Texas in a sense. But it's not about that. It's about the art, it's about the individual, it's about the creativity, it's about the film. So showcasing things like that and building upon it, building that infrastructure, things will grow. And so my big push has always been, if Indiana invests in us as individuals, and us as cities, and us in our studios, and our resources, like say, like Hammer Grip and Lighting in Indianapolis, the Lighting and Grip organization, what's up here that would be a good grip and lighting company that would be somewhat relevant? I know Lakeshore Media has some stuff.
Chicago.
To have a thing, but
Chicago.
Chicago. Well, the skill though.
Yeah, Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
There's a few guys in town.
But those are things they'll pull from that. But how would it be if you had somebody who was maybe a local guy, like a local place that had enough space, and invest in them to make it bigger? Have the city say, look, we're going to invest in you and this group and stuff, make a co-working station, a co-op, with this particular thing, because cooperative is more that Midwest mentality. I've been pushing this for a very long time. It's what IFN wants to do, is a cooperative movement or networking movement of studios and hubs, getting all the creators working together. It's a people plan. It's a project plan. How theater used to work, black box theaters, right? So how early cinema was engaged from theater. It's much like that. So in the early days, and maybe local civic still works like this, what do they do for their annual plan? Do they have maybe local investors, doctor or lawyer, some government people come in and have like a little networking thing, luncheon, and maybe talk about their shows they plan on doing for the next season? Do they do that up here?
Are you talking about
Civic.
community theaters?
Mhm.
Yeah, they have a board that is governed mostly by people with money, but then there's also worker bees in it. And then they have fundraisers, they have all sorts of things and ways to make money, because ticket sales will only make about 20% of the budget.
But
So-
that's the mentality. So
Right.
theater, that's not new. That's been around for a very, very, very long time.
Right.
Early church movement, same initiative. But black box theater, that's yay. Go to Edison, well, that's exactly what he did. fund his short films. He brought in people and said, hey, will you invest in my, I have this project, it's a 10-minute long film about my local church. I need $250, who's wanting to invest? There you go. That mentality. That's how Hollywood started, believe it or not. And then it got re-engaged by United Artists. So Chaplin and Fairbanks and all those lovely people who cut down the cattle calls and the contracts that kept you stifled for creators and crew, opened it up to unions, opened it up to even SAG-AFTRA and things like, or SAG, and then later after and things like that. Not breaking unions, but bringing them together, bringing us all together in that sense. So maybe a city could actually do things like that. It's one of the pushes that IFN wants to do is that we invest in individuals, we invest in ourselves, and we move forward. It'd be really nice to have the state do something like that for us. It'd be really nice. The good thing that the state definitely does, because it's unique, that doesn't happen. But the one thing that I'm going to push out is Film in Indiana. I love these guys. They are understaffed and underappreciated and not utilized, and Amy's probably going to hate me because she would probably want to be unutilized sometimes because they're understaffed. But the thing is, this is what we really need to, this kind of stuff we need to fall back on. Your local visitor centers, your parks and rec.
Is this state run?
This is state run. This is who works with all of the local tourism and your visitor center stuff. So, you know, you can go to your local visitor center. And
what is, can you rattle off, like, what are the biggest films that have been filmed in Indiana the last, budget-wise, maybe last 2-3 years?
Well, Columbus was pretty big, and that was in Columbus, Indiana.
Okay.
They themselves, the town, invested in that. Yeah, Indianapolis likes to say they helped out a lot.
What was the budget on something like that?
I don't remember, to be honest. I really don't, but it is the largest one.
Okay.
I would say the next largest one, again, I'm not really good with all that stuff.
Is that millions?
Columbus was way up there. It was, yeah. I think so.
Okay.
It was probably the largest one. Don't quote me on that. Please don't quote me on that. Because I'm not a numbers guy on that. I probably should be. I'm the name dropper, not the number dropper. But then I would say maybe the Pegasus guys, Good Catholic, Miss White Light down in Bloomington. That's decent budgets. They had a kind of a plan of what they wanted to do. Again, if they see this, they might yell at me about some stuff, but I believe that the initial goal for them was just get the story out. They weren't going to make a profit off of that first film. What they're going to do is use that as an investment, making sure they get some kind of initiative and get on Netflix and all these other things and be out there. You know, that's kind of a goal of a larger production, is that if you don't make that goal your baby, because you're going to sell it. You're going to sell that child, and usually that's just you're into. That's how you're going to engage into the market, learn how to get into film festivals, distribution, and all that stuff. So that first film that you think you're going to, you know, that's a hard one. Try not to make your first, that kind of film a film with too much heart, because it's going to rip you up. You have to give away a lot. You have to cut yourself a lot, bleed a lot. So just keep that in mind when you're working on a film. It just depends on what level you're working on. But those are very large budgeted films, yeah. Of course, we had a lot of commercial stuff come through. Nickelodeon, House Hunters, Home and Garden Television. They come here a lot. That's Indianapolis Film Commission has helped them get a lot of good shows in the Indianapolis area. Teresa Sabatini, who is our film commissioner for Indianapolis, is now a lobbyist, becoming a lobbyist, and still sitting on a committee for Film Indiana, but there's not really, again, if they see this, they might be mad at me, I don't know, but they're not really active right now. They got defunded, she's off contract. They're still going, they're still doing stuff, so I'm not saying they're not. But that's Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she had her fingers in the state because of other larger productions, and she worked all very much, well, in tandem with Amy Howe in Film Indiana. So, but that's how things kind of work. I mean, I will take any questions outside of that, but I really highly suggest you guys look into your local tourism, local hotspots, as it were.
I googled the cost of that film and said the budget was $700,000.
$700,000. There you go. So not in the million.
So yeah, I mean, in our
good movie though.
So my name is Lucas. I'm a producer. I own a film company. We do commercial work. I've produced content for Netflix, Redbox, Walmart, Sony, Showtime, a few others. As far as I know, I'm the only guy up in this area that can say that. You know, I had a film that was almost $500,000. I called Film Indiana, they didn't even show up. And so, you know, just to give you an idea of that, you know, as far as I know, it's one of the biggest films that's been in the state, you know, in the last 5 years.
What was it?
The Crowning Jewels.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
We shared your stuff.
Yeah, well, appreciate it. And so, you know, I mean, and I think we got an email back, so it wasn't like they totally ghosted us, but we're trying to set up a press day and have them come up here.
I am surprised by that.
And
I will say, and to give them a little
Yeah.
vision, is they are understaffed.
yeah, and that's what it sounds like. And so, I mean, I'm not here, you know, to complain about that.
No, but that's
you know,
something
I'd love
they
to
need to
see
bolster.
that. Yeah, I'd love to see that happen and be more so, because I do believe in this, and you know, there's I'm going out to other states now to film because we don't have
And so
the
we
tax
don't-
rebate
you
here
can't
for
be doing
investors.
that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the tax rebate's not really going to help you much,
Mhm.
anyways, on a lower end. There's a lot of good things about this past bill. There was, and you had mentioned one earlier. My thing is still about investing in us and education in the
Yeah.
students. If you're like at Butler or you're at IUPUI or Ball State or Notre Dame or somewhere, and you're taking classes on comm and video and all that stuff, production, you're not going to get it much around here. You're not going to do a lot. You should. They should invest in the state should invest in students to stay here and work on projects. They should invest in you. You should invest in your studio. And make grants available, make subsidies available. Not just tax incentives, that's great, but these kind of smaller end things that you can do regionally. That's what our big goal is, to push that in the next couple of years, because we're changing from a hub system to a regional system in the next year.
Good.
So that's something that, if write a letter to Amy and say, hey, you need to do this, because we've been trying to push it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Again, I'm huge support, but yes, you are right. She should have been on that. They should have, whatever you might have needed that's out that you weren't able to facilitate. Did you talk to him? Did you talk to local?
I didn't talk to them. I talked to the mayor's office, and they shut us down. And we went to Elkhart next door and we filmed. They would offer zero resources for us here. They wouldn't even like shut down a section of street 50 foot long.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, and Elkhart gave us probably 10 police cars. They gave us full road access.
That was a SAG film too.
Yeah, SAG film. Yeah.
Did SAG help out? Because Chicago office we work directly with.
So SAG was awesome with us. Yeah, they were great. I mean, it's you know, it's SAG.
SAG is the Screen Actors Guild of America.
That's too bad.
Yeah, but no, we had I mean, I had meetings with the city here, and at first I thought they were going to help out, and then they just totally shut down. So yeah, it was disappointing. I mean, I'm from St. Joe County, and so I really wanted to do that here, but we had to take it to the next county over.
Yeah,
it's
it's really interesting. So Evansville and Fort Wayne, I find this more common than, let's say, South Bend. I don't delve into South Bend so much because I don't get to come up here and enjoy your city so much. But let's say Evansville. Evansville's, say, 3 hours away from their local competitive city. Some of them are in a little bubble, and they themselves, the city, feels that way. Fort Wayne's the same way. They look at maybe Chicago as their competitive city and not Indianapolis, and definitely not Detroit or Toledo. So they have this like the bubble thing. They're stuck here, and that kind of goes down into each individual thing. I can say sometimes governments can do that too. Their hands are full. So let's say maybe crime's up. Maybe they have a different investment. They don't look at the arts in that way because that's this. It's kind of like education in America. They push out the arts, thinking we're going to have to focus on the linear way of thinking, getting all the math and the stats and the English and all this kind of stuff. Maybe focus on that. But those can't exist without the creative end. They just can't.
Yeah.
Investing in the free and fun time, we learned this during World War II, is let's distract America with giving them free movies and newsreels and fun stuff and invest their money into that. They did millions of dollars into entertainment because it wasn't a happy time. I think economic downturn, you should invest in entertainment. You should invest in theaters. You shouldn't do that. I think you should do that all the time. But those are the times when cities should be more engaged. So that's something that definitely, that's the problem with the city. If they're not willing to invest on something that shut down the street, doing something like that, that's sad. Go to film-friendly places. If Elkhart's willing to do it, awesome.
Yeah.
Goshen, awesome. Mishawaka, awesome. I've had issues in Lafayette before with things that I wanted to do. They were pretty good.
So Nathan, I have a question. After what Lucas experienced, if perhaps if Lucas had then communicated to whoever you talked to in South Bend that this is what happened, these are the results I've received, where, in other words, letting South Bend know Elkhart supported me. This is what.
That was communicated to the city, but I would say I would go through this differently now.
Okay.
And you know, looking back, I would probably be going to the chamber first and helping them, because I think when you say the word SAG, when you say nobody understands, you know, if they're not doing this, and so they just think, when they think film, they think 6 guys in somebody's backyard running around with fake lightsabers. You know, kind of thing.
That's right.
Right.
And so, you know, explaining to them that this is a business, you know, we spent $50,000 at hotels over the month or whatever it was, you know, and I mean, I would start probably now sitting down with the chamber or sitting down with somebody like Dale and finding more partners.
Jeff Ray with St. Joe Chamber of Commerce. Yeah.
That's exactly
not being critical. I'm just thinking of what filmmakers, artists can do to get word back, like, hey, this didn't work, and it worked here. So what do you want to do about it?
Well, it sounds like he did it. I mean, so in a sense, you fail and didn't succeed, because the failure, and I'm not saying it's failure, I'm just saying by having those put-offs, we learn, and then we can address it in different ways. But
I mean, on behalf, I mean, I love this area, I love the city, everything else. I don't want to sound like I'm totally knocking it. I learned through the process that there's more education that's needed. We just didn't have the timeline at the time because of the rate of production that happens to be able to figure out all those channels and figure out what that looked like. So we went to what we felt like were the decision makers in that process. And so now that, you know, I have a little bit more wisdom 3 years later, I would go, okay, this is how we would handle this. And I think it would probably be received much differently now by that, you know.
But it's the right voices is what I was trying to get at before. So, again, no, it is the right voices. So again, that's where the state should be coming in.
Sure.
And getting the cities on that page and understanding, because they're not listening to us. They're not listening to that.
I wouldn't be so negative. I think it's just
Well, it's not really negative. It's they're busy on other things. It's, you know.
In my this is theater. I've been now involved in my 3rd season with Shakespeare with Notre Dame, and it's just been a real walk to get the city to Notre Dame to now start to, okay, so now we'll give you a little money because we're starting to see some results. And the same thing with the city with this boomer thing that they came up with. So I would like to see people proactive in their thinking, like, okay, so you start and then you keep making those inroads and the ball starts to grow.
That's right. Public discourse, public engagement is where you go.
Yeah.
But it has to be positive too.
Right, absolutely.
Well, people will become engaged. Yeah, people will become engaged, and that is where you get grassroots in a sense. But then finding the right voices in politics and the arts and stuff. That's how you use the hammer to nail in the piece of wood that you're trying to get in there. So that's the big thing.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Very much.
Two questions. How many of you been to the State House before? So, about half of you.
I'm so new to the area, so are you inviting us?
How many of you ever thought they would be involved politically in anything? So just a couple, 3. So, well, just to tell you how to get a bill passed. Is that what you'd like to know?
That's tough.
Go get a bunch of people and go down to the State House and beg them.
Protest. So, as a squeaky wheel always gets the grease, right?
Right.
So, and what I'm saying is, you're looking at a kid that grew up on the farm and started carpentry right out of high school and never went to college, and now I serve as a state legislator down there because I fought for my industry. I fought for the housing industry and I fought for affordable housing, and because if you're not involved, other people are making decisions for you, right? So you got to get involved in your own industry. And so housing was my industry that got me involved politically. Most people, I would say at the State House, don't know anything about your industry at all. Okay? Now, I'm not a school teacher, but I make laws for schools and for teachers. Okay? So, I'm not a law enforcement officer, but we set the laws for our courts and our criminal codes and different things in the state of Indiana. Right? And there's 151 of us down there that do that. All right? So there's 92 counties, but we have 100 state reps, we have 50 senators in the state of Indiana. And so where I need to say is you need to get involved politically is get to know your legislator, get to know your local elected officials, get involved, right? Because there's people out there making decisions that affect all of our lives. And that's the good process. That's the Republican Democratic process is supposed to work. This bill 1070 that it was introduced, and it was introduced bipartisan. You don't hear a lot of bickering too much in the state of Indiana when it comes to politics. Most people in the state of Indiana are very positive about what's doing good for the state of Indiana, and we're one of the best states in the country as far as I'm concerned. We have a strong reserve. People are saying, well, you got $2 billion in surplus, but that allows us to have a AAA bond rating that allows our locals to do bonding at a lowest rate that anybody could be in the nation. So it makes it affordable for everybody. We have one of the most affordable housing industries in the state, in this nation, and most cost-effective living. And so, I'd like to keep it that way, so it's more desirable for the growth, the tax incentives for businesses to come, to keep our people busy, keep our unemployment low, and keep people moving. So I say all that to tell you, to start off, to kind of encourage you to get involved, to plug in, to get involved, in one side or the other, because you're not going to agree, even if you're in my party, there's probably still you're not going to agree with me on all the issues. And if you're in the other party, it's the same way. So you're going to have different thoughts and different processes. Just because you're one party, everybody puts you into it's not that way at all. So I've known people that have knocked on doors, and they had a top 10 list, knocking on doors, and they found somebody that agreed with 9 of the 10. And because of that one thing, they wouldn't support it. So don't get so caught in a box. Look at the person that's trying to do the right things, who doesn't have an agenda that's out there to truly represent you in this community and wherever you might live and what your industry might be. We have 300 lobbyist firms or lobby associations in the state of Indiana. So what's going to make your industry number one? What's going to get people's attention? So you got to sell your goods. You got to sell, here's where we're at, here's where I think we can go. So we do a 2-year budget in Indiana. Okay, so I serve as a legislator. I get voted in every 2 years if the people have me back. So the first year, which was last year of a session, is the budget session. And we do our budget for a 2-year period. So next year, when you talked about trying to bring this back up, because your bill is going to go to budget or appropriations. So it's called Ways and Means and Appropriations. So in the House of Representatives, we have a Ways and Means Committee. There's 19 members. It's bipartisan. And they look at about a $16 billion yearly budget. Okay? And then on the Senate side, it's called appropriations, and they have a committee as well. And we have a local guy here, somewhat local guy, that is very critical to that, because he is chairman of Ways and Means. Or I'm sorry, of appropriations in the Senate, Senator Ryan Mishler. Okay, so he has some businesses here in St. Joe County. He has his parents' funeral home that he took over in Bremen, and then they took over Carl Kay's memorial services, and I think they have a crematory here as well. But Ryan Mishler, Senator Mishler, and he is the chairman. If you can get a person in that capacity to hear your concerns, that could go a long way.
How do you spell his name, sir?
Mishler?
Yes, sir.
S-H-L-E-R.
Thank you. What was
I
that?
missed it. What did you say?
M-I-S-H-L-E-R.
M-I-S-H-L-E-R. Still a newbie here.
That's okay. That's all right. So,
So you're suggesting that to contact Mr.
yes,
Okay.
because he's a chairman of a finance committee, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Which is called appropriations.
Mhm.
And so, just to get him to listen to you, he's a very busy man, so you might have to go through his staff down in Indianapolis and to try to set up a short meeting up here with somebody, and take maybe 2 or 3 of you along. That might, don't overwhelm him, and it might take a couple, 3 times, right, to get some concern. But are you guys part of an association? I know you said a membership, but I don't know, is that?
We're America Filmmakers, which is an organization.
Yeah, we're a 501c3.
Is it part of a statewide or not?
No.
So is
We're
there a chapter or
affiliated with
anything?
the state organization, but we are a separate organization.
Right.
We're not
Based here.
subservient to them.
And I know.
We're statewide.
And you mentioned, Mike Karakoff from Kokomo, but, there's, again, 100 representatives and, again, 50 senators. And the senators overlap the reps, right? So there's 50 senators. And so you don't have to hit everybody too hard, but, you just have one vote here, right? And then if you can get a hold of Pat Bauer and Ryan Brian Dvorak and Ross Deal and Tim Wesco from our community.
Jim Russell.
And Jim Pressel's Laporte, you know. So, you know, get to know your local guys and say, hey, can I have 5 minutes or 10 minutes of your time, or, you know, even if it's a phone call, if you don't have time to get together. We had a bill that came up last year, which was 1070. I know it got heard in Ways and Means, but again, when you get 300 association groups in a large child issue in our state, right? We have DCS, and we had about 29,000 children in our state going through working with DCS, and we're down to about 23,000. So things are starting to turn around a little better, but you know we still have some broken family issues and so forth. So we got priorities, right? That's the #1 priority for us. Our education system. We spend over half our budget on K-12 funding, and so we spend about a little over $8 billion a year just on our K-12 funding in public education. So, you know, then there's higher ed and so forth. So I won't go through all the details, but so you got to get your case heard a little bit. You need to make us aware of what's going on. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, that is one of the things that got us in, because we work with education.
Yeah.
So we're an educational charitable organization, and we do STEAM and STEM programs for younger kids. We started doing more of that because it got attention. Because Indiana is very focused on
But
education.
WNIT is part of a network group that is statewide. You know, can you partner with other industries and other groups, right? So, like, I'm part of a home builders association, but it works real well with the banking industry, right? And mortgages, it works real well with the real estate communities. It works well with the apartment associations that are out there. And so all of a sudden now you got a large group of people that have a concern about the same thing. You know, what do you mean you want to raise the rise and run of a step? It could throw affordable housing right out the door for some people to afford a house because you add 1/8 of an inch or lower 1/8 of an inch on a step. So, sorry, keep going on that one. But, you know, and it's the same thing with fire suppression. We have to deal with the fire industry, and everybody wants a safe, affordable house. But when fire companies are coming in, or the fire industry is coming in and say, we want to make it mandatory that everybody has to have a fire sprinkling system in every house. Well, there's $7,000, and how many people are going to be thrown out of an affordable housing because you're having fire sprinkler issues? And how many houses surely burn, and people burn with the smoke detectors don't set them off? So how do you balance the cost, right? So I say all that to say partner with other association or groups that are like-minded. That can help you. Yes, sir.
Now, let me, and Nathan, we're talking basically about the state possibly enacting some kind of tax incentive, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Other states have done that. True?
Very true. Yeah.
Do we know how much that incentive is, what nature it takes exactly?
What's that? Say one more time.
Okay. The other entities that do that, what do they grant? What do they not grant?
Every state worked different. That was kind of the thing.
What's a good average?
When I did Indiana Media Production Alliance stuff, one of the big pushes was this is before Atlanta became Atlanta. We were looking at Chicago, we were looking at Michigan, where Michigan was, and Ohio. Their plans are really decent. They're really good and economically sound for their states. So there's not a cookie. It's not cookie cutter. Those plans are unique to pretty much each state.
Can I speak to that as well? So I would say that what I see is somewhere between 15 and about 30% back on money that's spent in that state. So, and some states, like I saw that Indiana's was 500,000 was the entry point.
Yeah.
Michigan used to be 150. And so, you know, I mean, a lot of people in this room, you're not going to go make a $500,000 film, but you might be able to make a $150,000 film and team up together to be able to do that. And so, you know, I personally like to see that threshold lower. And what that'll, because it's just more, we can't expect this to be like Atlanta overnight, you know, and so, but about 15 to 30%, and it's on dollars spent in the state. So if I'm bringing in, you know, Dennis Quaid from LA, that doesn't count towards my 15% or my 30%. It was, you know, a lot of states, now some states it might, but, you know, the states I've worked in, it's typically, you know, okay, my catering dollars, my hotel dollars, my crew that are local to that state. If I'm bringing in a director of photography from LA, he doesn't count. And so, you know, of a $500,000 film, I might only have $250,000 that's qualified for state money, you know, that would be in that. So we just did that in Texas. I've done it in Arkansas and other places as well.
And that's why we really try to push to, because we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's why we really try to push that we want the state to invest in us, the smaller stuff. because maybe a couple $1,000, $25,000, $50,000, and different gradations where, again, that black box mentality. You invest in individuals and projects and things like that. So you come in and you do. This is my business plan. This is what I want a grant or some partnership, some money, right? And I think the state should do its own separate thing on a small end.
Okay, so what we have is the filmmaker getting a monetary benefit, correct?
What we have is the investor getting a guarantee on a percentage of return.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not benefiting the filmmaker from that standpoint.
Okay, the person involved with the movie gets a benefit.
Sure.
The state or other organization would also get a benefit by pulling in people who will be staying in the hotel, using the restaurants,
We hope.
and this and
Spending money.
that.
Well, it's a
So
win-win
we're talking
situation.
money both ways, right?
Well, hopefully, yeah.
Okay. If we can quantify that in some meaningful way and show the state, look, let's take some examples. If you have this kind of thing, you're gonna make this much, you're gonna not get this much in tax or whatever, and the state will come out ahead. Money talks.
Well,
Okay.
yes, it does,
Would
but
you-
that's
would you agree,
exactly
Dale?
what we did.
So, but going back to Lucas's comment about the cost,
Yeah, that sounds
you know, I think we need to start small and work our way up.
Yeah.
Right? If you go for the gold right from the get-go, they're gonna look at you like it's just way over our head. Right? So get your foot in the door, kind of get the ball rolling, get it started, and then let it grow.
What was the percentage requested on yours, Nathan?
It was 30, 35.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
It would have been 15, it might have been a different
Yeah.
conversation potentially.
Exactly.
Well, see, we've changed, so there's been different ones.
Who drafted the language, do you know?
This one I don't know. You mean the original one? Let's see, Chuck would know that. Because he was really integral on that one. The
Not
first
that
one
critical,
was,
I didn't know if we were mimicking a
first one was,
state.
yes,
you know.
first one was a mixer of like, I actually have all the information, so I'll get it out for later. I don't remember the first one. We really try to push that one as an education and jobs bill for us. To encourage, you know, if you're going to come here, to really hire local businesses to supply your needs, local studios.
But his comment about having stats and the facts
Yeah.
and
Oh,
keep
yeah,
it simple.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Don't bring 5-6 pages. You know,
A
if
short
you can bring a
presentation.
1-page, you know, a 3-4 page summary, you'll allow us to read it. If you bring 5 or 6 pages, it's like, well,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
state will
these
give
are
up
miles
this,
ahead.
but they'll get back this, plus the PR doing it.
Yeah, I think this time around, because I missed it, this time around, that was literally a one sheet that was given. It says, this is the economic development of Georgia. This is what they invested in, this is what they gained. They did that fine line to every one of these competitors. So pretty much they showed that. And for more information, you can go, I'm sorry, not that, but you know what I mean. It was a one sheet that was given to everybody.
What I'd recommend we're out of session right now, so we are a part-time legislature, everybody has a real job. It's a citizen legislature, and so we were done with our session at the end of April this year. And so we're pretty much going through a summer study type period where we get together maybe once or twice a month down in Indianapolis and it's just committees only, it's not as a large group. So you have a little time, next session starts the 1st of January. Don't wait till January, because when I tell you we have 300 association groups hitting you all up all at one time, that's truly the way it is. So try to get connected, you know, before that time and, you know, throughout the next year, because the budget session is not this year, all right? They may make some exceptions, but you're really going to gear from a year from now.
Especially with this one. Since we've already went through it this year, it won't be really next year, it'll be the following.
But it's in their minds.
But it's in their minds, and we want to keep it in their minds. And like I said, Teresa Sapteen's working on, she's working on the lobby area. So having the lobby push and people in the know and keeping that in their mindset.
Joel has a question.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Along these lines, what would be meaningful for a representative or a senator to hear from an organization like ours?
So I think just to hear, you know, the trials maybe, you know, here's our stumbling block. here's our passion. I mean, how many of you do this for a living? Is it all hobby? A little bit of both. A little bit of both. So, you know what I mean? So is the industry, you know, going to help this community thrive? You thrive? Help it? You know, is it going to help our communities grow and our state grow? You know, we want it to be healthy, and so anything that's positive. But you know, teachers' pay is a big thing right now for the state legislators, right? Because we're getting hit a lot. But they have an ISTA, the Indiana State Teachers Association, which is their union. All the teachers paying, they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars that they can lobby with, right? And use in campaigns and fight for people that can focus on the teachers and their pay. So, but the problem is they're focusing on legislators, and the locals control their pay scale. I don't know, we just appropriate the funding. So you got to know where you're going and how to be effective with that. Is that what you really want to know, is to be effective? And so keep it simple, right? Because you're dealing with farmers, and you know, you're dealing with insurance people, you're dealing with a lot of, you know, teachers and educators, you're dealing with a lot of people. Nobody knows this industry. So talk in terms that we can understand too. Right?
Can I interject on one thing? So you guys know what the elevator pitch is?
Yeah. Right.
How many of you can master the elevator pitch or know enough about it to do a good elevator pitch? Okay. That's literally elevator pitch of what you're trying to find for Indiana to a rep, maybe at a, I don't know, with Sheila Klinkers was wonderful. She's very talented, so I can find her anywhere. She's great. But local representatives, they like to go and they like to be seen. They like to go to things usually. So if you're at a county market or art fair or something like that, or a gallery walk or something.
If it's an event, yes. If it's you're out to dinner and you
no,
enjoy
no,
the evening with
no.
your wife, that's the last thing you want to do is bother.
Yeah, that's a good.
Bug them with your issues.
And make sure it's short and sweet and to the point.
Correct.
Two quick questions, Dale.
Yes.
Number one, what's your general feeling yourself on this issue?
Well, again, for what I hear, you know, I think there's enough passion, right? Just not a lot of organization.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Number two,
Yes.
if we have questions or maybe want to know who to talk to, how to reach them, get an introduction, are you willing to be our go-to
Point person, sure, be glad to. You know, and I got a legislative
Right.
assistant that can help us downstate too.
Super.
And she was actually Representative Frizzell, a legislative assistant that he was the one that authored the bill. So she's also my LA.
And let me just say on behalf of Dale, who didn't ask me to say this, but I've known Dale for a while, and I think that I wish everybody in politics was like Dale DeVon. I've been down in the State House with him, and he's doing some incredible stuff. He's a wonderful staff, so I appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, Dale, and our representative. Said like that. And now, last but not least, is my friend from the Chamber of Commerce, is Rob DeCleene. So would you let us know what you would have to add to this conversation?
Sure. Thank you, Sid, for inviting me in. It's great to be here, and it's great to see Dale here. That's a fantastic show of support that Dale's in the room and offered those great words of advice and encouragement. So I'm humbled to follow him because that's the right guy to have here. So what is Visit South Bend, Mishawaka? You guys, you hear me say I'm executive director, and what do we do exactly, and how are we funded, and are we a city agency, and do I work for the mayor? No. So basically we're funded by a portion of the local St. Joseph County innkeeper's tax. So in the state of Indiana, any convention and visitors bureau is a county-wide organization. So all of St. Joseph County is to us the destination. So any visitor that comes to town and spends the night in a hotel, and now in a VRBO or Airbnb, they pay the 7% state sales tax, but then they pay a 6% local innkeeper's tax. That 6% is divided up amongst 4 agencies, and we're one of them. Century Center, a new fund for Mishawaka Sports Complex, and then now a new capital fund for the zoo. So that 6% is divided up. But the main focus of Visit South Bend, Mishawaka is to grow that fund, to bring more visitors to this community, whether it's a leisure traveler, whether it's a meeting or a convention, whether it's a sports event, you name it. What we try to do is put show St. Joseph County, South Bend, Mishawaka, our campuses, our communities, in the best possible light to encourage people to want to come here and spend a night in a hotel, ideally, to keep growing that pot, but to also grow the economy. As you can imagine, films can be a big, long commercial and really showcase the community or the destination or the state. Amy Howell, who Nathan mentioned a few times, works for the Indiana Office of Tourism Development. She's the communications manager for IOTD. So you see sort of, you know, a common thread here. We obviously work very closely with the Indiana Office of Tourism Development. They represent the state, we obviously represent St. Joseph County, we collaborate whenever, wherever possible. So I'm glad to hear that she's responsive and whatnot, but you're very right, they're severely understaffed. Our staff at Business Up in Mishawaka is bigger than IOTD staff, just to give you an idea. So he speaks the truth when he says that they're short-staffed. So, but what's interesting is we can be your friend. We can facilitate. I mean, facilitate is probably one of my favorite words to use in the office because quite often we are sort of a common denominator. We can connect people. So whether it's hotels with attractions or restaurants or other industry partners, that's how we refer to it. Quite often our organization, whether it's Business Up in Mishawaka or even the Chamber as a whole, because we are a part of the Chamber here, it is one of the most critical roles we play is connecting people. So by all means in the future, you know, if you strike out or with the city or if you ever just want to sit down and talk shop about future opportunities, I would welcome that opportunity. And maybe we can even not only assist, but also even point you in the right direction to talk to the right person at the city, to get a yes. Yeah. Because we like to think yes. That's sort of our mantra at the office. You know, it's what we do is meant to be positive. It's meant to shine a spotlight on the destination and promote it in the best possible light. And so we think yes a lot. We like to help people. We like to, if it's going to, in some way, shape, or form, put our community in a better position to pique someone's curiosity, basically, and then ultimately to get them here to visit, and ultimately stay in the hotel. That's really that's the equation that we're going after. Then you take that a step further, and it all starts with a visit, right? I mean, so if someone's interviewing for a job and they're not from here, they might come to interview, scope out the interview, and decide if the job's right, if the community's right for them. So it sort of all starts with a visit. And as such, you know, if you're watching a film, in this case, this very specific case, like I'm a big fan of Ozark, for example, you know, and all of a sudden I want to go check out the Ozarks. You know, same exact thing. I mean, think about Rudy. Rudy's probably our most famous calling card. We still play it. We have a mobile visitor center. We still play Rudy on the side of it every football season, out at campus on Football Fridays, and it just stops people in their tracks. You know, we still, what was it? Prancer? Prancer, yeah. I mean, we're going way back, but you know, it showed New Carlisle in a really positive light. So we can, basically my message is, you know, we can help you in whatever way we possibly can, but also we recognize the potential fringe benefits of filming taking place in St. Joseph County in our communities, and what that can mean for a variety of other benefits that come along with that. Last but not least, so I've been in this industry a long time. I'm from South Bend. I majored in tourism in college, and so as such, back in the mid-90s when I was working at Visit Bloomington, back then the Indiana Office of Tourism Development actually had a dedicated film, not necessarily staff, but I know a staff person, Jane Rulon.
She started on it.
Oh, okay. So, so there was a commitment back in the day, and then as things, you know, as economies change and various funding, as Dale says, everybody's looking for, you know, for funding in some way, shape, or form. So that position fell by the wayside, but there is a history. There is something to reference. So you're not starting from scratch, even at that level, when we can maybe get some more staffing at IOTD. The good news there with Indiana Office of Tourism Development, next July 1, they become the IDDC, so the Indiana Destination Development Corporation. It's going to be a public-private model, modeled very much off the IEDC model, which is Indiana Economic Development Corporation. So, as such, it's meant to, I think ultimately the goal of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dale, but I think ultimately the goal is that new model, being a P3, public-private partnership, hopefully is going to lead to more funding, which will hopefully lead to more staffing, which will hopefully lead to more programming. The more you say in Amy's ear, the more you say, you know, in the legislator's ear, the more likely film becomes one of maybe the new priorities. Yeah. So, so you are doing the right things, and it's great that you're getting together as a monthly basis.
We get together every month,
So,
the same day.
You know, it's fascinating to me, and you know, I like film as much as the next guy. It's not my passion, but obviously it's all your passion. I think that's fantastic, and I think what my passion though is tourism, and it's promoting this community, promoting my hometown. If we can work together to do that, all the better. So.
Wonderful.
One last follow-up with that, and again, it might be a little bit of homework, but I know you mentioned, Lucas, there was 30-some states that already had some kind of
34, yeah.
some kind of mechanism. You know, if you guys can research what that is, and then, you know, kind of see who's the most effective, right, in their state and making things happen, so you can learn from their mistakes or their successes, right? So, some old dogs in here, but we don't always like to know new tricks, right? So it's nice to learn from other people, and you know, most people are willing to work with you and talk to you anyway. So
I'd say the one that's really outshining a lot of people through tourism is Atlanta and Georgia. So Georgia, its own, working with the state, they work hand in hand, work very well. They have multiple subcommittees that have. I mean, it's not just Marvel movies or that kind of stuff that's keeping going. It's they're doing something right. As long as they keep the momentum going, I don't see why they can't go in.
Is it possible we can get copies of the laws that apply in those different states that give incentives?
Those are all available online,
yes,
for sure. Yeah, 100%. And if you just search, you know, films that offer state incentives, like I just found a website here, you know, on you know, prepping for this meeting, where it'll, like, not every, you know, it'll give you a 5-star state like Georgia, but you know, Kentucky might be a 1 or 2-star state, meaning that they're offering an incentive, they're promoting it, but they might not have all the same benefits that you know, but something like Kentucky might be a better model for us here in Indiana than Georgia, because, you know, we're not Georgia right now.
The lean for us originally with IMPA, we were trying to do we were looking at Ohio, Kentucky, and Michigan, because they were considerable closer states to what we were doing. Even Illinois wasn't there, because Illinois, I mean, yeah, the state has it. They have their own little conflicts between North and South and Central, and then you have Chicago, and Chicago's its own creature. And then Kentucky Louisville has their own. So Louisville actually pulls in a lot of really great films. Nashville, Tennessee has a great program in and of itself. Then you have the state. So I mean, it's getting everybody to work on the same page. That's something.
We shot in Arkansas, and there's a state tax credit in Arkansas. We also shot in Eureka Springs, and there's an additional tax credit in Eureka Springs. But in theory, the Arkansas tax credit could disappear, but Eureka Springs could keep theirs. You know, so this isn't just a state issue; it could also be a city issue as well. You know, but it just depends on who you went over. You know, and
that's why I really say the cities should invest. Gary has its own tax incentive program, and it's not too bad. They have a few good little outliers, and they should, because they're right next to Chicago. Again, Putnam County has their own tax thing going on, and Indianapolis has their own and stuff like that. So it's, you know, if the right people get involved, and the city can do it, and then the more cities that get involved, and the state goes, oh, that's viable.
Or would it be just fun if all the cities decided it's nice and they start competing to give the best bid?
Right.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah,
but again, they don't know your industry.
That's right.
They don't even know your industry is here.
Yep, that's why you gotta talk up.
So it sounds like the key, when the new bill comes along, so it sounds like the key is going to be outreach in many forms, with each other, with our communities, with our representatives, just in general, being proactive and getting out there. Now, when there was the panel on this at Riverbend, it was mentioned that there was a preferred term for what it is we're talking about. Is incentive that term? Or what is it?
This time around, they push it as a rebate.
A rebate, okay.
Rebate.
Yeah.
Rebate.
Yeah.
So much in, get so much back.
Yeah, and so a rebate's fine. It's just some semantics in a sense when it comes to that. I think it played well in their ear. So they changed some of it to the rebate. I like when we were doing the Indian media production line stuff in the first time, we had these like the incentives that like rebates and grants that could be facilitated for low-end individuals and organizations to be able to plug into that overall money, that tax rebate.
Does the selection of a term make a difference to the farmers
I
and
mean, it's no different than most cities and counties have a tax abatement ordinance.
Yeah.
It's the same, similar. It's not a rebate, but it's a tax increase increment. So in other words, it's a reduced tax to start. It's not so a rebate is money coming back, where a tax abatement sometimes it's a tax you pay, but it grows. You know, it's a 5-year period, so every year it increases. But it allows you to get started right with starting a business in your community. It's going to take a lot of resources, so it allows you to kind of get your foot in the door. Hopefully, you're going to create half a dozen jobs, right? And it's it helps the whole community.
Right.
So, but to answer your question, rebate, incentive is probably kind of that carrot, right? It's something that it's giving you something to focus on to help you, to give you something to go. That's why I asked you a question earlier. How many of you do this for a hobby? How many of you do it for a living? Are you paying taxes with it? Right? So is it going to invite growth? That type of thing. So that's what's going to be critical. Growth is a key word. But so incentive would be a better tool, I think, than a rebate.
okay?
I'll never reap a benefit from this, but if my state does, I'm all for it.
Right.
And Nathan, I remember again back at the panel that we had because at the Riverbend we had a panel with folks from Film Indiana and Pegasus Pictures, which is running a production company in southern Indiana. They were saying, I think, that the bill was very close. The governor was supporting it, and that they had someone from his office had been at their. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what they felt, why it fell short? Because there was something regarding that little extra support.
For what I know, they did really well with pushing that, and huge kudos to Pegasus for being available to be able to support that. I think a lot of people were laughing about it. There should have been dog-eared and thrown in something else at the last minute. It would have passed because it was that close. And I wasn't. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm not a fan of that bill. I'm a fan of it that it would open the door, get our foot in the door, and open up for a lot of other things and make the narrative there that we need, right? So huge on that. It should have been through. Why it didn't, I honestly really don't know. I've talked to a lot of different people, and I think it's just because they don't know. It didn't have enough. I mean, yeah, it was great that these people were interested, but it just didn't have enough oomph. Yeah. I really don't honestly know what made it. We're actually pretty hopeful about it.
Right.
Teresa came and spoke to IFN down there. We were talking about it, and we thought for sure that this time around, because it was uniquely different than some of the other ones. It wasn't as grandiose, and it was just enough to get us in, and then we could expand from there. I was a little surprised, but then again, the pessimist in me over the years of doing it, I wasn't surprised. But I go, and then the optimist in me goes, oh, we're that much closer. So next time around, if we do get our game together, what you guys want to do, if we talk about community outreach, that's literally the goal of IFN for next year's thing. I'm meeting with Amy hopefully in September. Because we keep I'm talking to the camera right now. So I sent it to her.
When's the road trip?
So, you want to come? Let's go.
Sure.
But no, I'm supposed to meet with her in September. And because the past couple of years, I'm trying to do a roadmap of Indiana in the sense that not roadmap, but cinematic tourism is a big thing of mine. I really want to hit home with that because, like you said, we remember those locations in films we watch. We want to maybe if we want to go see them or be part of that, right? And we keep throwing back to Hoosiers, Rudy's, A League of Their Own. People still visit those heavily, and some of them are 30 years old. We need some more blood and some more places. And Indiana is a wealth of wonderful locations and things. But one of the other things that IFN wants to push is that little bubble thing, breaking the bubbles, and having through the state, because they can facilitate better than we can. Though if we have to do it, I'm going to do it.
Right.
Is a map and a calendar system that showcases all the workshops, all the events, everything that's going on in our state all the time. People plug and play. You guys register a meeting for your area, and it's all through a little town or a little map. So then, this is what South Bend's doing. That's cinematic arts. Boom. Anything in that area, Elkhart, Goshen, Lafayette, Fort Wayne, it's all there. Plug and play. The state should be supporting that, and Amy's been a huge proponent of that for a couple of years. We want to do it. It's understaffed, underfunded, and literally have interns running the website.
Right.
You know, so.
But she needs some volunteers. She needs some volunteers if it's understaffed.
Yeah.
Hello?
Well, I think when I was without marketing for like 8 months. I don't think they had anybody running their marketing for 8 months. So, and I'm not knocking them. They're doing a great job. She really is doing a heck of a job. But if you do have a problem getting a hold of her, that's probably why.
So I kind of look at it as two different things. The state is one thing, and then your local community. So we as MAF members here in this area can push through our local support to show, get a local tax, whatever you want to call it, something going on, or at least at the very least an awareness of what's going on, for at least help for resources. Even if a bill doesn't pass, or it's just like help with the city to sit down a street, that's very helpful, even if it's not a $500,000 thing within, whatever. But it's important to have that. And then when other things come along, you can, you have that relationship with the city and the county and whatnot. And then the other thing I kind of look at, I guess personally, IFN, because of its reach, being based in Indianapolis and having all the hubs, is sort of like, you tell us how we can help your concerted effort on the state level, rather than a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off. Everyone making this like play on the state with all different plans and reinventing the wheel, and like you guys are already like hammering on it, or have the people hammering on it. How can we support that effort in a realistic way without them getting a call from us up here going, hey, you should do a bill? Oh, well, there's already all this,
Yeah, we're kind of in a weird situation, you and I, in a non-for-profit way, pushing legislation as an organization.
True.
Is problematic. But as individuals, we can do it. So what we do is, not necessarily, because we are actually in trouble for putting it on social media, but individually, we can talk about it here. You guys can talk, I can say, hey, would you share, when the bill comes up, promote it. Let's promote this bill, let's push this. Let's go and talk to local politicians about, what needs to be done. The problem, definitely with this last time, I didn't have enough public exposure until last minute. So we tried to do a push quite a few years ago with a number of people, with some talent agencies and stuff. We held up the sign, and we made a video. I don't know if you saw it many years ago. Help support, blah, blah, blah. We had to try to get creative, but it was like we had like 2 days to do it. Because, not even, I think we had 1 day to do it, 1 weekend. Because we didn't know about all the information until it was all right on us. So having more awareness of what's going on, even that goes to me too. Instead of tomorrow, and maybe paying attention to what's going on in the state, so it's not like we find out tomorrow. That's always good. That's always good.
One last comment though, if you're going to engage your local elected officials, know who they are.
Yeah.
So, and Rob can tell us with our county commissioner's seat, we have 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. So if you're lobbying that Democrat to get something going, and he's going to go to the 2 Republicans that they don't see eye to eye on most of the time, it isn't going to happen. So don't waste your time, right? Focus, spend your time where it's most effective. So, I see a lot of frustration.
I will also say, I'm not trying to plug IFN's website. I'm just saying, on our website, we do have a resources thing that talks about, that lists through links all the arts commissions throughout Indiana, and most of the heavy hitter visitor centers and Film Indiana, and a number of other things. So if you just go to indianafilmmakers.org and you go to resources, we have some other things for members and stuff, but it's really just it's a thrown together list and not even well organized, but it's all there. And maybe there's something relevant to you guys that might help.
Sorry, I got to take off.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Dale, do you have anything coming up that we can go and support you at?
Yeah.
I'll be at the Cubs game tomorrow. Really good.
Will you let this group know when you do?
We'll bring signs.
And anyway,
met you.
I'll let you know if there's something.
Thank you.
Wait to meet you face to face.
Here we are.
Can I walk you out? I have something else on.
Well, I hope we all feel a lot smarter than we did at 7 o'clock. And I want to thank Rob DeCleene from our visit company. To
Absolutely.
start this, and what we had in the past was just a road bump, and it's going to be positive, and we're going to